Hello YouTube, I'm back. It's been quite a while. It's been a long winter. Pretty good weather though for us actually, so I can't complain about that. I like global warming. I try to contribute as much as possible with my car, if you've seen those videos. You know what you're looking at here, I would guess. This is a Glock 31 in 357 SIG. I've been contemplating on getting a 357 SIG for a while, and I finally splurged on my tax return to get it. Coffee time. Excuse me. So, being that I'm in New York State, a horrible state for capacity and for taxes, figured I'd do the right thing and piss them off by buying another gun with my taxes. So I've been looking at 357 SIG for a long time. You probably know I'm a fan of 357 Magnum. Let's go to 1 power. I tried to get lighting a little better here. I moved the lamp over, the stand-up lamp, so we can get better lighting. This is a 125 grain scalloped lead tip. This is like the FBI standard for performance in a 4-inch barrel revolver for like one-stop shooting, one-stop ending of 2-legged threats. This is an awesome load out of a 6 or 4-inch gun. I can't off the top of my head tell you the speed on it, but this is Remington white box, green and white box stuff, which is awesome. Always buy the Remington green and white 357 Magnum. It's way better than its price, and it looks like old-time flood ammunition, but it's killer. This stuff is awesome. So that's what I bought, Remington green and white with the SIG. I did test this. It come out about 1410, and or actually, no, I didn't test this. That's off a Paul Harrell video. I did some ammo testing the other day, and I get confused there, so pardon my white lie there. But anyway, side note, Paul Harrell, if you've OG YouTuber gun guy, if you don't know Paul Harrell, subscribe to his channel. He's actually dying of pancreatic cancer right now, so they just got him over 1 million subscribers. Super good content over there. Old school format. It's good. So subscribe to Paul Harrell. Back to this. So I'm a fan of this. It performs awesome. So why not try to get as close to it as possible in a semi-auto? And that was the theory on creating this when SIG made it. It's not a very popular round. I don't know why. Some state troopers and I think air marshals used it, but it performs extremely well. And like I said, Paul Harrell tested, I think, an average of like 1420, 1415 or something out of this, and this is the same ammunition. So, and you can tell what this is a 10 millimeter case that's shortened and necked down to 9 millimeter 355 diameter, where this original 357 Magnum is 358 diameter. So the projectiles aren't interchangeable, but they're extremely close. This is 125 grain as well. So, I mean, that's not gonna really affect performance. But it's not a 40 caliber case. If you neck down a 40 caliber case, it'll be like a few thousandths short at the top. So you should use a 10 millimeter case that you cut to actual length. So let me go about some differences here. We're gonna talk about the gun later. I'll talk about the ammunition first as I ramble on. So they tried to mimic the performance of the 125 357 mag, which probably gets about 1500-ish, maybe a little more out of a 4-inch gun. This, like I said, 1410, pretty close. Not perfect. You can get more powerful ammunition like Underwood or whatever that gets up there a little better. But it's a nice compact size, you know what I mean? It's roughly the same. This is an interchangeable with a 9 millimeter frame magazine. It's 357 SIG mag, but very compact. And if you say, it doesn't look like it'll hold the same amount of powder. Well, listen, here's the deal. The only reason the 357 Magnum shell was that long is because when they designed it, it's just a 38 special jacked up in length they did it that way so that you can't put 357 Magnum in the older 38 Special guns that aren't rated for it, or 38 Special at all that's not rated for 357 Magnum, because you can load 38 Special to 357 Magnum pressure. It's not a factor of room in the case. Trust me, my dad did it when he was a young dude and learned a lesson. He had to pound his shells out of the cylinder with a wooden dowel. Didn't hurt the gun, but as far as he knows, but he then traded the gun and got a real 327 Magnum. All they did was lengthen this case 1/10 of an inch so it wouldn't go in the 38 Specials. So, as well, I believe they made the wall of the case a little bit thicker to help withstand the pressure, because 38 Special was designed in the 1800s for black powder. It doesn't reach the pressures of modern propellants. So the case needed to be thickened too. So you can get this, which is the same as 40 cal and 10 millimeter in diameter. You can get about the same volume of powder in there, you know, close. So with that, and plus you don't need to use one of these. You can get, you know, instead of 6 of those, you can get 16 of these total, you know, 15 plus 1 in this guy. So this gun's clear. Hard to check with one hand, but I'll try. Ugh. Well, actually, let's just look at Glock and look at their, oh, the extractor is flush with the frame, and you can't see any shininess through that little gap. So we know it's clear. I already checked it anyway. But I waited to do this video before I got these AmeriGlow sights on it. These seem pretty good. It's not perfect though for me. I prefer, let me zoom up to 1. When I'm at full extension, I like the front sight to basically fill the notch, so you don't get much of this. But because when you have more width on each side of the front blade, I get like lateral wandering. I just like a razor thin bit of light on each side of the front post. That's where I shoot most accurately, but I can't seem to find sights that are like that very often. That's one reason I went to this AmeriGlow instead of the Trijicon XDs. Trijicon XDs were pretty awesome. They had a big notch in the back, a U notch. They're fast, but they're not as precise as factory Glock sights, for me anyway, because of the lateral wandering, right? And that's, I don't know, I guess you're sacrificing some accuracy for some speed. But even the Glock night sights on my Model 19, which is a little bit shorter, but it fills the rear notch almost completely compared to this. And I shoot really well with that gun, like out to like 80 yards. So, you know, I don't know. These sights were pretty tough putting on, this back one anyway. I mean, it wasn't horrible, but I had to use my dad's big tool, which is a wire gear. I think it's Chinese copy press or whatever, but you got to like put it on there, load up the sight with the crank, and then tap it with a hammer. Tap the side of the presser with a hammer, or the press, I should say, and it'll load up a lot of pressure, and then you tap it, and it bing moves the blade in. But as you can see where it was pushing on the sight, but they're in there and it works. But you know, a lot of people say Glocks are easy to use sight changing wise. Not always. Anyway, I've been rambling for 9 minutes. Let's go back out. Everybody's seen a Glock before. I really like these sights though. The front blade shows up really well. I think that thing kind of like, I don't know, it's like day glow, and then at night the night sights work. So anyway, what is this guy like? With a better trigger, because it's just a standard Glock trigger. Not that it's bad. This is a Gen 4. It's a very accurate gun, and I think it's just the round, basically. I mean, I shoot really good with Glocks anyway. But the inherent performance of this round is great. I don't know. Like, I had a feeling when I shot this gun of, like, laser pointeriness. So, like, I have a, what is it? Like 11 or So like maybe a 15 by 18, something like this, or I think it's more like 12 by or 11 by 18, I think. Steel plate, rifle rated plate. And with this at 25 yards, I could divide this hangy plate like this into 9 sections, like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and I could pick any one of those sections at will, standing, and just put the round in that section. You know, like right corner, left corner, upper right, you know, upper left, middle. I could just pick with this gun at 25 yards without too much work at all. And I think it's because of the round itself. And like, I know this is really good for shooting long range, but at 25 yards, you know, it shouldn't be that much different with any gun. And I'm sure it's not, but it definitely seemed easy with this. Like, maybe it's just because it's a little longer Glock than I'm used to, but I don't know. It's like it feels like a laser gun to me compared to my 9mm or my XD45 I used to have. My 45 Colt is an extremely accurate gun, but I haven't shot that in a long time just because, I don't know, I don't shoot it that much. I don't know what to say, really, about this other than if you're not a fan of 357 SIG and the Glock, you should be, because I don't want to see the round die. It's not very popular as it is, but it works great. Like, it's definitely high performance, too. Like, you want to search for it. It suffers from the same problem 10mm does. And take another sip of coffee. Where you get underperforming ammunition a lot because the ammunition companies are so pathetic that they're afraid to be sued all the time. But if you can get Remington Green and White Box or the even better Underwood instead of like basically watered down shit, that what's the point of having watered down? If I have watered down stuff, they even water down 40 a lot, which is crazy. Then this they jack 9mm up as much as they can, and that everybody thinks it's fine. But then they water down this and 10mm and 40. It's like, why? Why are they doing that? I don't understand it. Do you know that the factory early loads of 357 Magnum, like back when they designed it, I think it's 1930s, was pushing like a 158 grain bullet at like 1,500 feet per second. 158. That's faster than the 125s now. Like, it's ludicrous. Why? Because those guns didn't blow up, you know, and I don't know. Metallurgy definitely hasn't gotten worse since then. It's probably at least on par. But this is an awesome gun. Like, it handles really well, being the full size, and it shoots like a laser beam. It's great. I don't know why you wouldn't want this for self-defense. As well, this penetrates less or equal to a 9mm, with imparting a lot more horsepower to the target. So I seen an article, actually I think it was from the Lucky Gunner Ammo Company, and it was a video where he talked about some type of doctor, like a I don't know what he was, like PhD or something, who was into wound ballistic gelatin tests and stuff. And they were basically shitting on this round and using this doctor guy's analysis as proof to why it's no better than a 9mm. Like, this is the most retarded, backwater, stupid shit I've ever heard, because nobody says that this is just as good as a 9mm or only equal to a 9mm plus P even. Nobody says that. This will crush a 9mm all day, and this is just a little bit less than this, where a 9mm is another order of magnitude down the line. So how could this only be as good as a 9mm? You're fucking stupid, because this is traveling at like a couple hundred feet faster with a heavier bullet generally, or at least the same bullet. And this dude and this doctor was talking about the penetration tests and how this bullet only penetrated as deep as the 9mm. That's not the point, stupid, because the damage to this upon impact of the target was radically more dramatic. So when this hits the target, it dumps a huge amount of energy right away. So the bullet loses and then ends up at the same place at 9mm. The 9mm doesn't have shit compared to that. Hits the target, doesn't make as much wound cavity, doesn't dump as much energy, and then slows down and goes to where this did. So you got fragmentation off this, meaning that the trauma of the impact is blowing parts of the metal off of this bullet, where the 9mm doesn't, and just makes its way. So that is where this is so much more powerful. It's hitting the target and disintegrating the round. Now, some people think that's not that good for some reason, but everybody then, those morons, forget the reason why the AR-15 works really well on enemies. Like the 55 grain, you know, XM193 round or M193 ball. If it's under 200 meters and a 20-inch gun, it has rapid dissipation of energy upon impact, causing fragmentation. They're always searching for the fragmentation because that's what causes the damage and the heavy wounding. And when we start cutting the barrel down, the bullet slows down. Here's my coffee starting to kick in. So like in an M4 or in a 10-inch or 12-inch gun, you lose performance because it's dropping speed and not fragmenting. The velocity isn't there. Well, it's the same idea. Is it lesser? Yes, because the velocity is down. But the people are arguing something, and I see it quite a bit, that has already been proven. So that, in like jumping back to the ARs or M16s, that's why when the Sierra Match King round, the Mark 262, the 77 grain projectile stuff, when that leaked out of the special forces and sniper stuff and DMR guys into standard guys getting some of that, and they said, wow, this works so great, even though it's slower, is because they got that 77 grain projectile, the open tip match, to break up and cause devastating wounding at lower velocity. So yet again, it proves the theory on why this is way better than a 9mm. You know, the 357 Magnum is the FBI's gold standard for one-shot stops. Why wouldn't you try to mimic it like SIG did? It's a super valid, great idea. Plus, this has a good feeding capability because it's a neck-down cartridge. You know what I mean? You're shooting a 355 bullet at a .40 hole, so it's going to taper and have better feeding. So there's my rant on that. I hope you all stayed with it, because that Lucky Gunner video, if you find it on there, that guy should be ashamed of himself, because your business is about ammunition and you don't understand basic theories on ammunition. And the people who have used this in shoots on human targets have stated how it works really well, and they love it. They're like, yes, it performed good, like really well. And it's the muzzle blast is loud. So let's go into that. They talk about psychological stops and stuff with it, because it's a very loud, powerful gun. Somewhat flashy too, depending on ammunition. Apparently it scares people. That's good. You know, is it rough in a house? Yeah. Okay. But you get that super dump of power and better penetration, or more loss in velocity during penetration, which I think is a good factor for house shoots. My theory is, if you're shooting somebody in your house, you might lose some hearing, but what are the alternatives? You know, you're going to have to make some sacrifices in life to keep your life. I'm not going to take time to put on ear protection in the middle of the night. So this is a long video. I want to jump back to the target for real quick. I'm going to get off the ammunition bantering. If this had a better trigger, if I spent the money on a better trigger in this gun, it would be extremely accurate and great. And I may do that down the road, depending on how much I shoot it. One of the reasons I chose this gun is because it fits in my Glock 19 holster. Same size as the Glock 17. This is a Gen 4. They don't make a 357 SIG in Gen 5 yet. I don't know if they will. Gen 5 40 cals, which in a Gen 4 would be a direct copy as this. Now they're wider and heavier. I don't understand why Glock did that. The only answer that I've found is that they wanted the recoil to be less for shooters, which is stupid. It's dumb. The recoil on this, to me, I'm not recoil sensitive, but it doesn't flip as much. It doesn't have this much violent flip as like a 40 cal does to me, because the bullet's lighter. It just kind of goes straight back, but I'm not going to say it's hard. What I experience mostly with this being a high pressure round is the buzz in your hand, almost like shooting a hot 38 special in a J frame, or a 357 Magnum in a J frame, where it bangs in your hand, and it's almost like holding onto a fire, like a Black Cat firecracker, and you're having it blow up in your fingers, where you get that Magnum sting, the buzz, because there's a lot of frequency vibration that goes through your hand. But that's not that big a deal. I wanted to get this in a compensated version, the C model, but I could not find one anywhere, so I just settled. I want the velocity anyway. I don't want to lose an extra 50 feet per second. So I'm happy with that. Down the road I could send it away and have it ported, but I'm not really worried about that. Great gun. The only the negatives I have with this gun is these 10-round magazines. For some reason, I think the spring catches inside a couple of these mags. It hasn't caused an issue yet, but as I load it, or when I get my stuff, I always take the magazines and I dump the springs. Let's see if it does it right now, actually. Or I dump the mags, and see if you can hear something when I get about halfway through it. There. Did you hear that? Maybe it's doing it earlier now because it's breaking in. Maybe it's a break-in issue, because I've only dumped these mags about 5 or 6 times, and I've only shot 2 magazines out of it. But when I would dump them, and when it was in the gun, I shoot about 5, and then I'd feel this boing. Like, I think the bottom half, because it's not misfeeding or anything, I didn't have any failures with it. So that at least the top half and the followers coming up and keeping track, and then all of a sudden something goes boing, and I think like one of the spring winds is dragging, and then it jumps, and then it continues to work. But they haven't failed me yet, but I've heard that noise. This time it happened after I dumped one round. I don't know, maybe it's getting better with just breaking in. It's going to be something in the future I'll keep having to pay attention to. But that's one thing I noticed. I noticed it when I was actually shooting the gun too, and I shot like half a mag, and I was walking to like a little farther back, and all of a sudden I felt it in my hand go boom, and I was like, what? That was that spring follower deal. But it didn't fail. The gun didn't fail or anything. The only other thing I have with this is that putting the Glock slide back on issue that has been noted on like Glock Talk and on a couple other websites, and it's years old. But when you take this apart, field strip it, put it back together, sometimes it doesn't just slide right back on the frame. My 19 just slides right back on every time. Sometimes this will go on and stop. And what it is like the firing pin, or what do you call it? The striker reset portion, the little guy that sticks down. If I had a tripod, I'd take it apart and show it to you. It only does it like 50% of the time, or like 30% of the time. You got to like reset that striker and push it, make sure it's forward to put the slide back on. And sometimes you have to push in the little safety firing pin stop, because that'll hang down, and this striker thing will be back a little bit, like a 1/4 inch or whatever it is. Not even that, probably like an 1/8 inch. And it, for some reason, stops the thing from going back. But if you reset that and just put it on, it's not a big deal. I don't find it to be like a real issue to me. because the gun works fine. It's just that aspect and knowing that happens with it. And it's a fairly common thing with the Gen 4s. So, and it's a common thing where it only happens half the time too. I read a thread where somebody said that a Glock tech said to reset the trigger by pushing the trigger bar forward. And I've tried that and it still doesn't work sometimes. So to me, it's definitely the little thingy in the slide that sticks down, the striker reset thing. I don't find it to be a big deal, but I got to shoot a little bit more. And, you know, make sure it's good to go. I got a buddy with who bought a set of, we were shooting one day and he showed up with ammo for his 357 Magnum. And I took it out and I said, hey man, this is for 357 SIG, not 357 Magnum. So I told him I got this gun. He's going to come out and burn off that box of ammo through this and just break it in for me. I'm going to let him shoot it. And then deem it to be 100% reliable or not, which I don't have any issues with it. I would carry this gun right now with no problems. Yeah, good gun. If you get a chance to run a 357 SIG, try it. Don't be afraid. Longer barrels work good. Even the 32s is a little shorter than this. They don't lose a lot. But I wanted the longest barrel possible to get the best performance out of that high pressure. Yeah, nothing new under the sun here really in this video. Just I wanted to show you guys this, and I wanted to preach about this round because it's really good. Don't let this thing die. All right. Don't forget to subscribe to Paul Harrell too there. And watch that guy's content. You learn a lot of stuff from him. Later.